Right. I'm going to pass various things under your nose, okay? You don't have to tell me what they are. You have to tell me how much you would score them out of 10, okay? So that is, if it's really stinking, you're going to hold up with your fingers in silence a 1. If it's a beautiful smell that is like cornfields in summer, you're going to hold up 10 fingers. Here is smell number 1, okay? Millie, have a deep breath. Okay, hold up fingers, 1 for stinking, 10 for beautiful. Joshua, have a sniff. Okay, have a sniff, Benji. And then, Chloe, can you write down the score for each of them? Hold up your fingers just so Chloe can see. Here is smell number 2, Millie. Okay, here is smell number 2, Joshua. Okay, well done. You've been terrific. Masks off. So the garlic was universally horrible. The trainers, I'm actually delighted that Millie and Benji think my trainers smell better than garlic. Millie thinks it smells better than perfume. I might make odour trainer. Now, in today's story, we are going to look at a woman who wasn't stinking in the way she smelt, but was stinking. And we're going to find out what Jesus made of her. Because today, by the end, she was smelling beautiful in more ways than one, okay? So we're going to look into this. I want you to listen out for what she did. What she did, because we want to find out why she did it.
Now one of the
Pharisees
invited Jesus to have dinner with him. So he went to the Pharisee's house and reclined at the table.
Okay, thank you very much. Peter, could you ask you to sit on the chair? Okay, so we're going to pretend that Peter is Jesus. Whose house did he go to? Yes, Matthew? The Pharisee. A Pharisee is an important religious leader. An important religious leader. So this is a big deal. He was having a meal at his house. He was like the visiting guest, the celebrity. Simon had invited all of his closest friends, the other important religious people. They had him there. Okay? Now, I want you to imagine that Peter is Jesus. Can you take off your shoes for me, please, Peter? Okay. Now, what I'd love you to understand is that in those days, people wore open-toed sandals. Okay? Open-toed sandals. So that meant when people arrived at a meal, they came with feet that looked like that, and worse. Okay? So open-toed sandals in a hot, dusty country, so with no tarmac on the roads or pavements, so you were walking on mud, either hard mud or muddy mud. So this is what your feet look like. And because they didn't have cars, they had animals, it meant there was all sorts of things on the roads that got onto your feet. Everything you can imagine from an animal ended up on your feet. So you would arrive at people's houses, you'd always take your shoes off at the door, and normally, if someone was a good host, they would let you wash your feet when you arrived. Now, on this particular day, Jesus arrived. He may have been the Son of God, but he had dirty feet like everyone else. He was sat down at the table. Now, a woman arrived at the meal. A woman arrived at the meal. She hadn't been invited, but everyone knew who she was. Can you just look down with me at verse 37? Verse 37 says, when a woman who had lived a sinful life in that town learned Jesus was eating at the Pharisee's house, she bought an alabaster jar of perfume. A sinful woman arrived at the house. That means a woman who everyone knew because of the mistakes she had made. She had done things that were really embarrassing. She had done things that made her feel ashamed. You can imagine that. As she walked down the street, she wouldn't make eye contact with anyone. You know when you do something awful in your school, you feel embarrassed for days, you don't look at anyone, you don't want your parents to hear about it, you hope the head teacher doesn't spot you in the corridor. That was her whole life. Her whole life was spent being embarrassed. Now, everyone knew the terrible mistakes. the room would have gone silent when she walked in, because everyone would have seen her come in. Everyone would have known that the Pharisee would never have invited her into his house. The conversation would have stopped. She would have felt embarrassed like she always did. Now, what then happened was she went straight to Jesus. She got down on the floor and she started to wash his feet. Now, the strange thing is that she didn't wash his feet with a sponge. She let down her hair. So girls here with longer hair, she used her hair to wash his feet. Now, let me just explain one thing to you quickly. I know this sounds strange, but women then never let down their hair except in their bedrooms. So they always tied it up. So in fact, you would only see a woman with her hair down if you were in her family. So like, if you can imagine, you would be the only ones who ever saw your mums with her hair down. So having your hair down was a bit like being in your underwear. It was something you only did in your own bedroom. So for her to let her hair down, it was like she was in her underwear. She was choosing to do this for Jesus. She didn't have a bucket of water. She cried on his feet. She cried on his feet and wiped his feet with her tears. So she did that with both of his feet until there wasn't a mark on them, with her hair, always crying, the whole time she was doing it, as the room was in complete silence. Everyone watching what she was doing. Everyone wondering if Jesus knew what this woman was like. Now, when she had done that, she dried his feet. And did you read what she brought with her? Did anyone read what she brought with her? Yes, Luthea? An alabaster jar of perfume. Now, an alabaster jar of perfume, that means a clay pot. And they didn't have lids then. So once you opened an alabaster jar of perfume, you had to finish it up. So what happened was, she then, it says, poured a whole bottle of incredibly expensive perfume all over his feet. Now, because we know she was such a sinful woman, we can guess that she didn't have much money. So for her to pour the entire bottle of perfume all over his feet tells you a lot about how she felt about him. This can't have been something she normally did. In fact, this wouldn't have been something they'd ever seen before. People wouldn't waste perfume on stinking feet, would they?
What did each of them think about Jesus? So what did Simon think about Jesus? What do we think? Did he think he...
Why is he doing this?
Yeah, why is he doing this? He's a bit weird, isn't he? Could someone write that in, Benji? Could you write that in? He's a bit strange, perhaps? Why do you think Simon invited Jesus to his house in the first place?
To see if Jesus is actually a prophet.
Yeah, to see if he's the real deal. So what do we think? So this says about the woman. How does she think about Jesus, Matthew? What does the woman think about Jesus from that verse?
She probably didn't think he would forgive her.
Yeah, she didn't think she was worthy of Jesus, isn't that right? And that would you say that she thinks she's amazing? And what is the word that it says? He who
Forgives.
Yeah.
Who has been forgiven little loves little.
Yeah. So she realizes that she needed to be forgiven for a lot, but she realized that Jesus, the person who can forgive, isn't that right?
In this story, Simon and the woman treat Jesus completely differently. Okay? Can you just raise a hand if you can tell me, how did Simon treat Jesus that day?
Well, he wasn't a very good host because he didn't wash his feet.
No welcome, no love, not a very good host. How did the woman treat Jesus?
Really nicely. She was really kind. She put perfume on his feet, washed it with her tears and her hair.
Thank you. She treated him amazingly well, really kindly, really loving.
It was like she loved him.
It was like she loved him. Well done. Can I just read how Jesus finishes this? He says in verse 50, Jesus said to the woman, "Your faith has saved you. Go in peace." Okay, we're going to look at that finally in your small groups. But just before we do that, I thought we'd just have a go at washing our feet. I've got 4 buckets here. We'll split the girls' group into 2. We've got a group here. We've got a group here. I've got 4 sponges, 4 buckets. I've got some cloths. Do you just want to wash your feet? Okay, you can decide if you want to wash each other's or whether you just rather wash your own. Okay, Pete? No, you don't have to wash your feet. It's a bit of fun. If you don't want to wash your feet, you don't have to wash your feet. Feet are pretty horrible. And I thought it was amazing. I thought some of you would say, I don't want to wash someone else's feet. But I was amazed that in our group, we had some of you saying, I don't want someone else to touch my feet. In other words, my feet are so horrible, I won't let anyone else touch them. Now, that's how you feel with feet that I think most of you have probably cleaned in the last day. This woman cleaned someone else's horrible feet with her hair. We're just going to think now finally in our groups, why would anyone do that? Why would anyone clean someone's filthy feet with their hair?
So who do we have? Shout it out. We've got
Jesus! Simon, sinful woman.
and Sinful Woman. Brilliant. Thank you very much. So on each of the pictures, we're going to write about the sin that each of them had, okay? So what could we write on Simon's? What could we write on the woman's? What could we write on Jesus's? What things did Simon done, Joshua? What things had Simon done? What sins had he done in this story, can we think?
Not realising that he's a sinner.
Not realising he's a sinner, exactly. So remember, why did we think that he wanted to invite Jesus around in the first place? Was it because he was God, or why did we say he wanted Jesus to come around to his house?
He thought he was an important person.
Yeah, he thought he was an important person, so he was sort of being a bit arrogant, wasn't he? He was being a bit prideful. He was trying to show off. So we think about Jesus. So what sins in the story do we have about Jesus?
Nothing.
Nothing. What about Matthew? What do you think? Do I write some down? What sins had Jesus done? Nothing. What about before this story? What else we know about him? He's good, so he's never sinned, isn't that right?
It's only sin is being good, and that's not a sin.
No. Who do you think people thought was more sinful? Simon or the woman?
The woman before.
Yeah, the woman. Yeah, exactly. So, but the woman, everyone thought she was sinful because she'd done these really obvious sins, hadn't she? Everyone in the town knew what she'd done wrong. Can we just not?
Obvious sins.
Yeah.
Simon still did sins, but not obvious ones.
Yeah, exactly.
Everyone isn't perfect except Jesus and God.
That's right. Do we know what sin is? Have we heard the thing for sin? We say S is shove off God, I is I'm in charge, and N is no to your rule. And that's what Simon had done to God. He'd said, shove off, I'm in charge, no to your rule.
Didn't even think he had anything.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. He didn't even think he had any sin. So that's why he didn't need to be thankful to Jesus, isn't it? That's why he didn't feel he needed to treat Jesus well. He thought he was perfect. He thought he was sorted.
And it's not just Jesus that you have to treat well and like, it's everyone else.
Exactly, it's everyone as well. But he thought he was better than that woman, didn't he? He thought, I haven't sinned, and then look at this sinful woman who's just come. So we said the man didn't care about Jesus, that Simon didn't think he was anything special, but how did the woman treat Jesus?
As if she loved him.
As if she loved him, exactly. So did she care for him?
Yeah.
Was she grateful?
Yes.
Exactly. How did she show that?
Washing and sweet.
Yeah, but
Putting expensive perfume.
expensive perfume. She was so grateful to Jesus that she cracked open this bottle of really expensive perfume and poured it on his feet. And how did she wash his feet? What did she use? Did she use a sponge? Her hair. So she was so grateful. Yeah. So is it anything that we've done that we get forgiven?
No.
No? So why are we forgiven then?
Because he died on the cross.
Because he died on the cross. And why did he send his son to die on the cross then?
So we go to heaven.
But was it because we'd done something to deserve him dying on the cross? Why did he do it then? So he just did it? So but why?
He loved us.
Because he loves us. He just did it because he loves us. Not because we'd done anything in particular. And it was actually the opposite, isn't it? So what have we done instead? Rather than deserve it, we've sinned. But we learn in this story that he loves us when we realize our sin and he forgives us of our sin. Isn't that incredible? So I think it'd be good if we all prayed here. We all prayed, thanking God for what He's done for us and thanking Jesus for forgiving us of our sins. So we all prayed. Benji, could you begin? And we'll go round the circle and then I'll finish off. That be okay?
Dear God, thank you for forgiving us, even if we do wrong. Help us not to be like Simon and to remember and not think that we're perfect and treat everyone the same.
Amen.
Father, help us to have thankful hearts like the woman. If we understand the sin that's been forgiven, we'll be more thankful because Jesus is our rescuer. Amen.